Do you know what? Let me bring something in, because you did some research on that.
The frame of our thinking.
You did some research on that in terms of how it frames our reality throughout the films and whatever.
Yeah, because what it was, there was it's a book called Adolescence and Emerging Adulthood, and the author of this book was talking about how TV and film representation impact the formation of self-image when it comes to teenagers, young people, and saying basically that we use television and film as like a comparison tool, so we get ideas of how the world is or how it should be, or how people are or how they should be, and then basically that basically changes. So it's like a case of it can either enforce, enhance, or even corrupt our perceptions, and we make decisions based on it. So when I was looking at that, it kind of made me think about sometimes some of the big TV shows that we see, where like if you're talking about from like a young person's perspective, if you watch Power or you watch Empire, how do black women have to be in order to be respected? They got to be loud, they got to be brash, they got to, do you know what I mean?
Know how to use a gun.
There you go. That's like if you're looking at what's the woman's name? Cookie, or even like Scandal. How do you have to behave to get up the ladder, and do you know what I mean, to be successful? So it's like that was the point that she made, is that basically it's a comparison tool, and so it's never, when we're going on this journey of watching films and television, we're generally coming back with something, even though we're suspending our do you know what? I'm happy for brother to flip that on his head, because it was something I picked up at college a few years, but it was something in it makes sense. I actually quite like. I think that works, but it's just to understand it's more than just the entertainment. We are generally coming away with things. Okay. Sister Nahanda, in terms of your independent cultural foundation, how's yours working? How can we all make sure we have one?
I think Tafazzo should be sitting there, you know, really.
He's on a plane. He's gone.
He's gone. But in terms of, you know, the breakdown of that foundation, but connecting it to the arts, and that's his speciality field. But yeah, everything brother Hakeem is saying. But when you're talking about, I think he said it in terms of how you develop yourself. So you know, that journey of know thyself and seeking knowledge of self. So if you know, some of you are, I'm a member of Al Keblan, or a member of Nation, or I don't know, a Sarah set, or just within the conscious community in that way, PACM, whatever, you're developing yourself, your consciousness, and your, I want to say the terminology properly, what was it?
Independent cultural foundation. You're
developing your independent cultural foundation in that way, and like our brother said, it's your
You should all try to use that this week as you go about your daily business. Independent cultural foundation. Say again.
But on the journey of self, you're realizing that that's part of, that is the part of the purpose of the journey, to develop that understanding and develop that foundation. And then you realize that that's where other people are operating from. So you see, like when China was upset, because they're operating from their cultural foundation. You understand? European they're operating from his. So when we begin to understand the context that we're in, and whose culture that is being portrayed, who's being pushed on us, then yes, you go in there knowing this. I can't even say you know it's entertainment. You know, you will always know it's not entertainment. You're never not thinking, this is just or this is just light. You'll never think that.
People always say that to me. It's just a film.
No, but I'm saying, like I said, once you're developing your cultural foundation, you never walk in there questioning.
Which is why it's the foundation, because once you have it, you never go there again.
And but when you're giving different examples, it's Papa Garvey said, propaganda is the tool from day one, and so the system understood, white supremacy understood that, we was beginning to understand that, and take the lead in that direction. Do you get what I'm saying? Hence the power of the Negro world, and then Muhammad speaks and all of that. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's to the smallest to the biggest. So social media, Facebook, cartoons, everything music. When I say to people, you know, as my child was growing up, I'm monitoring their music. Oh, it's just songs. As long as there's not swear words. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every single thing you open your eyes to look at is that a billboard, everything.
Do you know, I heard a quote from brother Dick Gregory, and he said, once the creator allows you to put the magic glasses on and allows you to see what's going on, you can never ever take them off again. They just do. From that point on, you just see.
That's right.
All right, so we're gonna get ready for the ad break, but Hakeem, we're gonna get more into films and just talking about how, because we did the first part. Once you have the second part was, oh, I'm so good at remembering things, but I've forgotten now. The 3 C's: cognitive, celluloid, conceptualization. Oops, I'm sorry. Cognitive, I'm not even going to try it again. Write it down. We'll put it on the Facebook page. And we're going to come back into that, and then just looking at how then, when we approach a film, how our understanding or our ICF can actually help us with that. The other thing I want to talk about when we get back, and we can maybe wrap this up with that, just Black History Month. It's been, we've had another one. I don't want to necessarily go through all the different bits that happen, because there's events happening all the time, but just in terms of what our own understanding and what Black History Month means to us as individuals, because obviously I know everybody around the table works within the Black community 12 months of the year, including our cameraman, but it's a case of, what does Black History Month, that particular month, do for us in any shape or form? Is it something we should scrap? I heard the lady who actually put it together 30 years ago was saying it should be monitored and better funded by the government. I don't know if that's how we feel about that. Say again?
Which lady? I've
forgotten her name, but I will get it for you in the ad break. She wrote a letter. Say again?
Not Linda Bellos, is it?
I believe it was, yes. There you go. He's just a faucet of information, is our brother Hakeem.
I can't get the correct spelling, but I'm sure it's a brother.
No, there was a lady who. Well, I read this.
There was a collection of people. There was. No, if you're talking about, if you're talking about Black history out here, there was a collection of people. There's Linda Bellos. There was the late.
Well, she wrote an article this week.
The late great MP Bernie Grant.
Okay, we're all part of
involved. Yeah, there was all involved in the very early age of propagating that there should be Black history here in the UK.
Right, so. And it's just so when we get back, we will each discuss our own views about that, because I won't spend too long, because I really want to get into some of the other film talk, and then to actually get into films, because even the fact that they made a cartoon around the life of Marcus Messiah Garvey and his work, which Brother Hakeem also covers, but I'm hoping you're going to inform our audience about today. The Black Star cartoon. I really know, because it's so important and people don't know and they won't get that chance. So keep it locked to Amiga FM, www.amigafmradio.co.uk. See you on the other side.
Amiga Radio 104.1 FM. News and views around your community.
Welcome back after the ad break. I was going to say it's Talk Black Radio, but it's actually now the Brother Hakeem radio show, as he has jumped in and really given us so much information. We're blessed to have you here today, so thank you very much for that. If you missed the first half, we've been talking all things film, and we have been listening to the scholarship of our brother Hakeem, who really, if you haven't had the opportunity to go to one of his film breakdowns, it really is the thing. I wanted him to talk to us about a particular cartoon that I just, it was such a revelation.
People are going to have to come to a breakdown that me and Dr. Les deliver.
Okay.
Sci-fi versus Black Fact, you know, because I got to give credit to
Dr. Les.
Dr. Les, he's a brilliant scholar. You got to get him on. He's a brilliant scholar in our community.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes Dr. Les and myself team up. We do the film breakdowns together. Sometimes I do a solo. But you know that what you wanted to go into there.
Yeah,
I've got to give credit to Dr.
Brother
Les
for bringing that
because he brought that forward and went into.
And although I have received a gagging order, I'm gonna tell you from the day that I heard this, at that presentation, it has stayed with me, and it has literally changed the way that I watch, particularly cartoons. Because believe it or not, I find a lot of the time there's so much more in the cartoons than you'd imagine. Like the films are one thing, and when you get into the cartoons they give children, It can,
The deep man. Ants and all them thing their bugs life lot.
Okay, there you go. Okay, we're gonna get into that. You don't just keep messing up the script. Remember what I said?
I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going straight back to you now, Hunter. What does Black History Month mean to you?
What does Black History Month mean to me? That's a big question, you know.
Do you dust off the dashiki? Do you get a new kente head wrap and say, okay, 1st of October, killing it this month? Or is it just business as usual?
Well, firstly, I don't dust off. Let's start.
I'm sorry. That's actually quite disrespectful to say that to a woman. I do apologise. I don't wear a head wrap, so I wouldn't.
But there's no, and yes, I will definitely buy a new head wrap in
October.
Black African History Month, if that's the time when we collectivise our efforts and project our culture more. So it's definitely an important time, and I see it as, you know, in terms of our calendar, in terms of our time in the calendar in the year, we have no reason not to celebrate African History Month.
Okay.
If we're going to celebrate,
you can't think of another month, can you?
No. What's that? What's tomorrow? Day after tomorrow? Halloween, Mother's Day,
Then
every other consumerist, whatever foolishness we put
Then
out
anything
there.
we can get is our blessing.
This is what I'm saying.
Praises
And
due
we
to
must
Allah.
give thanks and praises for the founders who put the work in to maintain our culture and for us to build on top of that. Because I when people say, oh, it's not necessary, the amount of people, if not for institutions like African History Month, because the reality is there's some of us that only tune in that month. But for some who are, you know, out there, let's say, in the world, if they're going to get some form of cultural injection to begin the seed, to build that cultural foundation, then we must give thanks for it, because without it, what now?
All right. David, what does Black History Month mean to you?
Big question for me right now.
You know, you have to do the whole thing. Just, you know, do you enjoy Black History Month? Do you look forward to it? Do you get involved a lot? Because in truth, it isn't whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just how each of us interact. Because some people will interact with that, like you said, in that month. So I'm not asking for a judgment on Black History Month. It's just how we each get into it. To me personally, I always forget it's happening. I never really...
You do kind of forget it's happening, but I think because we're in the works,
yes,
we get called upon more.
Right, and then things pop up. But I don't really... if I'm honest, I personally don't really engage that tough with Black History Month. And a lot of the time, and I got this from the article that Miss Bello, it was actually who wrote... Yeah, it was her who wrote it. In The Guardian, that's right. I got it. It's like a lot of the time, stuff that comes up in there isn't really curated. It's not like we have a committee that makes sure we know what we're putting out. It's Black History Month, and this is where she was talking about schools doing the come to school as a slave day kind of thing, because it's Black History Month.
That's because we've lost control of Black History Month.
This is the point she was making in
it's
her
like carnival,
article.
all different things that we have brought here. We've lost control of it. So it's about how we regain control of it. So we're in a different... You live in Brent, and the little time I've been in Brent for now, because Westminster's a bit different, but the little time I've been in Brent, that booklet of Black History Month has developed every year, till I haven't even seen the one this year, to be fair, but the last couple of years, you know, you have to skim them pages quickly before you get to an actual...
You said that we lost
event.
control, but I don't know how much control we ever... No, that's not true. I'm sure we had a larger modicum of control, but it was something that came through the GLC and stuff, wasn't it? That's what I read in the same article.
Well, yes and no.
Go ahead.
I'll jump in after.
I was coming to you anyway, so you're fine. So answer that question and then segue straight into what Black History Month means to you.
I wouldn't say it came through the GLC and Livingston back in the day. Like I said, I mean, I give a whole lot of credit and praise for Sister Linda, because she has been one of our leading activists over the many decades, if people are not familiar with her. And like we were saying before the break, but it wasn't just Sister Linda, it was also the late great MP Bernie Grant. There's other elders in our community. There's Elder Kwabena, Elder Harry Cumberbatch, Elder Diana. There's back in the late 70s and 80s and come up to the early 90s, they were always pushing Black History Month within our communities, within the schools, within our community groups, whether there was a GLC there or not. So
Right.
I personally can't give that level of credit
everything
over
comes
to the
from the root up.
yeah, exactly,
Because now
over
that
to
it's
GLC.
when you're saying, I understand, that makes a lot of
yeah.
sense, and generally it always starts from us, but when it's now adopted in the schools and whatnot, then it's obviously had to have governmental support to actually become part of the national curriculum.
But it's again, but see, that's the irony. It doesn't need. I mean, how can we say we see? It's so ironic. That shows you why we need a Black History Month.
Yeah.
The fact that we're still looking and talking about a system
Yes.
that systemically destroyed our knowledge of self to put us in a so-called inferior position. That's the same system that we're looking to what? As Minister Farrakhan says, what, to teach us right after you wouldn't treat us right? That's a sad case of irony. So
Why would you say, you said, so I get what you said, because I agree with that point, but I'm not sure why you tied that in then to say that's why we need the month as opposed to that's why we need the ICF like
because
you spoke
the
before.
reason why we need the month is because, and maybe this now leads into what it means to me,
Yes, sir.
is that those 4 weeks only serve a specific purpose. And that purpose is for us to, yes, we can celebrate our achievements in the past. It does that. It brings about awareness to those of our people that still need to be woken up.
Yes.
It serves that purpose.
Yes.
But the biggest purpose it should serve is for it to be a launch pad. For you to now decide what history are you going to contribute and make for the other 11 months of the damn year.
Yeah.
Now, that's what the ultimate purpose of it should be. And the reason why is because the fact that we needed, and we can't talk about Black History Month without mentioning, I mean, Sister Sankofa said about the greats that have helped to found it. Carter G. Woodson, who founded,
In the States.
Negro History Week, so-called Negro History Week, and then that evolved into a month.
Yes.
And that
It's
helped.
not even from a day even.
Yeah,
then it
that's
went
right.
to a week,
There
and
you
then it
go.
went to
There
a
you
month.
go.
Which is February in the States,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's February in the States. And we're talking about a man whose parents were born into servitude. We're talking about a man that was self-taught. We're talking about a man that went through an educational system that would normally take you 5 years and longer to get through. And he went through it in a couple of years, being self-taught. He became a scholar. He became a teacher. He became a researcher. He started
Because he's the author of The Miseducation of the Negro.
Right.
But when you read that, and when you look at, because this is when I said I don't really interact with it that much, and I'm not saying that as a badge of honor. I'm just saying this is how that is. It's when you see the purposes that was put together for, and his mindset in giving us that. It's when stuff has always been presented to me in Black History Month, not always, but regularly, unless it's from people who I know that are consistent throughout the year, Black History Studies being the most notable, it generally ends up being something that does not bear witness to the Carter G. Woodson principle.
But maybe that's one of the reasons why we've got to focus on it, because it came from us to maintain that control, contain that management, and for it to now become institutionalized
By us,
because
for us.
that's the problem. There's aspects of our culture, there's aspects of our activism that we do, and it doesn't become institutionalized.
Yes.
It's reactionary. It remains reactionary. A situation comes up, we wait for a situation to come up, so
then
then
we
we
hit
can
the
use it
streets.
again.
Yeah.
It doesn't become institutionalized. It doesn't become institutionalized in our thinking.
Yeah.
So therefore, it doesn't become institutionalized in our behavior. So therefore, it doesn't become institutionalized in our building.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
And that's what Black History Month is supposed to serve. Because when Carter G. Woodson said, and I'm paraphrasing him, so I may not get the exact quote correct,
Yes, sir.
but when I was first coming from a state of ignorance into knowledge and intelligence, when I read that book, The Miseducation of the Negro, and when Carter G. Woodson said, look, the so-called Negro, I'm putting so-called in front, has been so miseducated.
The door situation.
He will always he'll always look for the back door.
Yes.
And even if there isn't a back door, he will build one for himself to walk through. Now that's so deep. Now the fact that again, that ties back into what we was just discussing. The fact that we now want to turn around and see, because of the work that I do, because I, as you know, I also work in schools and I deliver workshops when I'm in schools. So the month of October, I'm tied into it.
Yes.
You know, and that gives me an opportunity to use it as a platform to challenge the system, but also to get with like-minded people so we can still continue to build our own. And that being said, I mean, look, if we're just going to look at it, as the sister said, just as a carnival thing, and there's one school I went into, and it wasn't just Black History Month, but one school I went into, it was Black and Ethnic Minority Month, where Eastern Europeans were brought into it. You know, Romanians were. It's like, oh, it's got to be all inclusive for the minorities,
which is when we lose the control,
and that's where we lose. So when I know, as you said, if we're not tied into it, that's what starts to happen. So we have to be tied into it, and the reason why we have to be tied into it, finishing on this point, because I know you want to come in, is one of our greatest poets that we've ever had come out of our community out here in the UK, Brother Tugstar.
Yes, sir.
And I never forget, he told me this when he went to Ghana, which is his home. That's his home state. That's where his family comes from. Brother came back when he came back to the UK. He said, "Brother Hakeem, do you know what I experienced in Ghana?" I was like, "What's that?" He said, "Black History Month." And I was like, "Are you serious?" So if you in Black Ghana celebrating Black History Month, what are you studying for the other 11 months of the year? Even though you're in Africa, you're in a place that produced Mansa Musa. You're in a place that produced the Moors. You're in a place that has founded history, and that has founded the evolutionary march towards development and civilization. But all of a sudden that doesn't come from you. You only get 1 month to study it. That means for the other 11 months, you must be studying European history.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now that's in Africa.
Yes.
Now imagine, imagine now, again, without Black History Month, again, for those who we're trying to awaken or whatever, if they don't have no understanding of their history, they just assume people in Africa know everything. Like, oh, well, they're in Africa, they must know. Do you understand? And like you're saying, you're in Ghana, and is Kwame Nkrumah on the curriculum?
You understand?
Do you understand?
There's these Nubians that walk past the pyramids right now as we're talking. I'll call it the pyramid complex, and they still don't know they built them.
Do you understand? So
You understand?
I told people
away
because I actually went to Ghana. I stayed. I visited with brother's family in Ghana.
Okay.
And gold producers, by the way. So visited with family, and I came back and I was saying to people, do you know, Ghana, and I went to Nigeria as well. It's almost like the least conscious place I've been.
Okay.
When I was there, it's like, and I'm like, okay, so independence first. Where do I get all the information? And like you said, I'd studied Kwame Nkrumah before I got this. I thought I was going to get the real. It's not. Yeah. It's not like that. But I'm not knocking them in that way, because sometimes, whether it's economic pressures or other pressures that may move that situation along. So I don't know. But all right, Trevon, you're last. What does Black History Month, as a school teacher, mean to you?
Kind of rethinking it as I'm listening to everybody else, because again, generally, I don't generally engage in it that much. And I think from looking at it a lot of time, I kind of saw it as kind of tokenistic a bit, in the sense of how I get it, but it's how we actually engage with it.
Yes.
Because
which I guess is the positive of what the guests are both saying.
This is what as I'm listening, this is what I'm kind of getting, is I was initially thinking it's tokenistic, because when you look around, I mean, we were doing some research yesterday, and it's like, there you type in Black History Month and they got pictures of Chris Rock. I like Chris Rock, but was he with Black History? In the school they got pictures of Alicia Keys. I like Alicia Keys. Why was that with Black History? Why are you? And it's like the key figures are not, their stories are really not told. So I looked at it in that way, but then at the same time, what kind of came to mind is, it is good to have that space. It's almost like a family reunion sometimes. You know, when you see Black history, you know, sometimes you can be in a family and maybe you're not all as close as you should be, but then there's something that happens that brings everyone out and just keeps those lines of communication. So you could look at it negatively and say, well, we're not doing anything, so to look at it negatively, but you could also look at it positively, say it keeps the lines of communication, so that potential to work together is always there.
That's right.
So for me, just kind of sitting around and listening, I think that's something that I will engage with more.
Do you know,
going forward.
in that regard, I've recently changed my thinking with Kwanzaa, because I really look forward to Kwanzaa for those reasons there now, because that's the time when, to me, it's like we come together, but the principles of Kwanzaa are kind of set. So we're dealing with whatever, we're dealing with unity, we're dealing with economics, we're dealing with, so at first I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm doing Kwanzaa, but now it's like it's a good thing. I look forward to it, get events popping and all sorts. So I could see how owning something and feeling attached to it makes a difference with the way you actually interact.
And I think, and that's an important part when you said again, owning it. We have to own it. The reason why we have to own it, because we need as many stepping stones as possible towards our liberation.
Yep.
And we've got to remember that one of the first steps towards self-liberation is to become self-defining.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's again one of the purposes that Black history should serve.
Yep.
So, like the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he who prescribes or controls the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your actions. See, so if our diameter of Black history is just going to be Jamaica or Barbados and what happened on the death plantations there, then that's going to be the circumference of your achievement. See, if our diameter of Black history is even just going to be the Mali Empire, yeah, that's as
far as we're going to go
circumference
with
of
our
your
work.
achievement. If your diameter is even just the Kushite Empire or the Kemite Empire, again, that's the circumference of your work. But if you take your diameter to say, before all was, I was, I am all that there is, and I am all that there shall be. I am the beginner. See, we've got Omega Station. You just need the Alpha here now, right? See, if I am beginning of all and the ending of all, if all comes from me, not just what's on the planet Earth, but I am made up of the very universe itself. Now, you really taking everything into Black history. Now, you really going back to the origin of full history and into thinking that way. See, when you become self-defining, then you get meaning. And when you get meaning, you get purpose. And when you find your purpose, you know your fulfillment. And when you know your fulfillment now, when you know your fulfillment.
Once you get started, you're not stopping this, brother. Go ahead.
Then you're on that pathway, yes, of achieving the destiny of what your ancestors set out from the very beginning. So it's good for us to have the pictures of the pyramids on our wall. But I know if Imhotep was here today, he would say, "You ain't built nothing better yet." I didn't design that for you to keep marveling it for the last 3,000 years, and you haven't surpassed that yet.
At this point,